Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Hearts of Iron 4 Black Ice with me, Alpha Omega, and French Republic. So I want to start this episode, an actual recording session. I'm planning to record 3 episodes today by talking a bit about a topic that I read about today. I had a couple of hours, so I decided to catch up on the French tanks because that's something that I never really jumped too much in. And I was curious, and I found a lot of interesting information, but the one that I would like to convey here is that French tanks were actually really good, and I mean really good. Some of the things that I read about them were almost unbelievable. One that I would like to mention here is that in a combat that happened during the fall of France, one of these B1 tanks, the upgraded B1 base, managed to single-handedly destroy 13 Panzer IIIs and return unscathed back to the French lines. It sounds almost unbelievable, but the French tanks were in many cases on par or even better than the tanks that the Germans have. They had superior armor and guns, and many of them had other qualities that they could rely on. The issue that the French tanks had was a couple. One that's probably the most important was the doctrine and equipment. France was, and that's a conjecture, okay, but France was still holding, in my opinion, to the World War I tactics, where they didn't really have armored divisions per se, but they added their tanks to the infantry divisions in what, to me, is screaming World War I doctrine. Basically, they had combined arms, but not in the modern sense. They had small groups of infantry working with 1 or 2 tanks under command that could be seen as a division. So they didn't really have anything like mechanized and motorized units working in combination with tanks that were made to fit it, but instead their tanks were relegated to an infantry support vehicle role. They also had no radios, or almost no radios. I think I read somewhere that about 80% of tanks during the Battle for France had no radios at all, which made them really, really inefficient. They were great if they had their operations. The doctrine of the French Republic was small, slow operations on a very carefully prepared plan. I actually wonder, if you look at the doctrines, this would be the methodical battle doctrine, in my opinion. What do we have available? Do we have anything? Across the phone technologies. Infantry tank artillery coordination. We have defense in depth activated, but no. Yeah, for me, this would be the methodical battle doctrine, really. They operated on a pre-defined plan, and they tried to stick to it. Another thing that the tanks had as an issue was they were almost too good for their time, meaning that they were very unreliable because they tried to utilize the cutting-edge technologies, and in many cases that was an issue. For example, the biggest issue of the B1, the one that we spoke about, was the fact that it had one gunner. Basically, it was the commander of the tank had to aim, shoot, and reload the gun, which was great if he had some kind of autoloader or something. But the way it was made is that he not only had to command the tank and command other tanks if he was a group leader, but he also had to aim and shoot. So things like that were really weird. On one hand, it was amazing, and on the other hand, it was really, really weird. So, yeah, the tanks were really interesting, and I want to read a bit more about them. One thing that I didn't understand really was, and this is not to the tanks but to us, the reason why we had an S35 and then we got the S35 chassis, because there was really no upgrade. The first upgrade was called S40, which was the upgraded S35. So I was hoping that we could rename the tank that we have to S40, but we literally have S40 here. So that's a bit weird, but yeah, I guess we'll have to do with it. The AMR 35 was really a light tank that was used excessively, but I guess it can be classified as a tankette here. It was used in a role that is connected to the tankets here as a scout and reconnaissance vehicle in support with infantry, so we're going to utilize it that way as we're planning. And they used a lot of cavalry tanks. I was actually thinking about it because what the French did during the war was literally they removed, for example, 2 battalions here and they added the cavalry tanks to them. So for us it would be something like this. No, that's actually too much. So if I added another light anti-tank and support anti, yeah, we would do it probably like this, and where's the, yeah, something like this would be the typical French division, I'd say. They had a lot of infantry, support artillery, and they had actual tanks added to the infantry divisions. So that seemed a bit weird, but it's a completely different logic. And while tanks were amazing, they were really hampered mostly by doctrine and issues like that. So yeah, it's weird. It really is weird. If we change you to the tankette recon, how many tankettes would we require? 100 and so. Okay, so that's something that we can think about. And was that the light tank? Wasn't not the cavalry tank that we had? So the infantry. Yeah, that was one thing that actually screamed to me as well. The French really had a lot of tanks, a lot of types, and it caused quite a lot of chaos for them. Yeah, we have a lot of light tanks. So maybe something more like this would be more representative if we removed 2 divisions and added that anti-tank. And this would be maybe something that we could try to get. Because we would literally have enough tanks at the start of the war to do this. It would lower the defense slightly, but we would have way more hard attack, soft attack, breakthrough. Well, I don't care much about breakthrough, but piercing would go up, armor would go up insanely. So if I removed you and gave 1 cavalry tank, how would that? More armor, more piercing. Something like this. I don't know. Last, before we actually start the game, I wanted to mention that I was kind of surprised, but France had the 3rd biggest, or if I recall correctly, the 3rd biggest amount of tanks at the start of the World War, after Soviet Union and was it after Germany? No, after. Damn, was it Germany? I think Germany and Soviet Union they were the only ones that had more tanks than France at the start of the war, and they had roughly 5,600 tanks, of which over 4,000 were dislocated in France itself. So kind of interesting. I was not expecting that. Okay, almost 10 minutes are gone, and I keep talking about French tanks. I recommend looking into it because it's really, really goddamn interesting. I was surprised and shocked by what I read. Anyway, we're doing really good here. Not enough to stop Germany, but really good, I think. Okay, we do have too much energy yet again. So what's going on here? Let me check on it. Here's the trade. Doing it for resources. How come we have a deficit in energy again? Wait, is... Okay, so that's something that I didn't realize. Civilian and military factories actually require energy. Okay, well, this gives us the reason to get the hydroelectrical plants. 23 days, and we would get 2 hydroelectric. And how much do they give? Can we see here? Here's the power plant and the hydroelectric. They give actually more. Okay, so we're getting more factories, which of course means that we are hard pressed for energy. So we can lower the factories for a bit and see what it's going to do with our capacity. Okay, it's still too much. What? That is really weird. What the hell is going on there? But this should be enough. This should be enough. Okay, we're at 99.9%. I think we might actually snatch these 2 hydroelectric plants. Or I could start building some. Wow, we really are doing better on factories. Yeah, it's the stability effects and everything. We are at what? 35%. Is that the minimum? I think that might be the minimum. No, 25% is our minimum. Okay. So we can still pull it down a bit. So we get the Christie suspension, which we really don't need much for anything, but I'll keep it. Anyway, we need to upgrade our B1 tank to the new chassis, and I don't know what to think about this, because this is saying that it gives us a power turret and a casemate. Okay, so if this is the power turret, what would you give? Breakthrough, heart attack. You give more of everything. This heavily reduces IC cost. No. Yeah, it reduces IC cost. I think we're ahead of time on everything else. So it doesn't really matter. We can look into... I think this might be a bug, but let me just research the turret anyway and see what it's gonna do for us. I think it might have some kind of benefits for us. Oh god, we're getting more factories. Inflation gets worse. That's what I wanted to see. There was literally no crisis for us for a long time, and I was just feeling giddy. Over the past few months, inflation has gotten worse. Wages have become stagnant, food is becoming expensive, and the French people are losing patience with the government. The French people are remembering with horror the effects of hyperinflation that hyperinflation had on Germany. German people needed literal wheelbarrows of money to buy a loaf of bread, and they used stacks of money for firewood. We must do whatever we can to avoid the same fate as Germany. If we do not act soon, it could lead to a total economic crisis. Okay, so we're getting yet another inflation, which will allow us to get the budget deficit wall. Oh, we can't. With what? Oh god. Oh god, no. Doesn't have the national spirit. Stagnant economy. But we can't remove it now. How can we remove it again? Okay, that is really bad. I had no idea that it could block us like this. Oh, that's bad. Well, we'll see. I mean, it's not that bad. We're getting a little bit of... The political power cost is the worst one, really. But we have basically blocked ourselves. Okay, we need more of you, but we don't really have the power for that. So hopefully we'll be able to get these. Yeah, I guess we'll have to keep building more power plants to keep up with the demand of the industry. Really, that's... Oh, there is stability is 87, which is good. Because the Republicans are having an issue and we won't be able to send them more volunteers, will we? I'd like to get more army experience though. Still drilling the units. Getting someone who would keep giving us army experience would be great. Defense in depth doctrine. Land doctrine research speed. Army experience gain. Army fuel consumption lowered. Freedom being. Is there anyone here? Special forces attack? Nope. And the chief of army division defense 6%. Yeah, you. We need one of these guys to give us the army experience. We have the defense in depth. Entrenchment factor max. Okay, we need this one. Infantry tank artillery coordination. Is that a World War I technology? It is, okay. And it is super expensive. Okay, we need a 25 army experience. Which brings me back to the fact that we need a theorist and we need him as soon as possible. It's gonna take him 250 days to get us the army experience. He's gonna help with the research. Yeah, Philip Petain is the guy for the job. El Salvador resigns from the League of Nations. And 1937 started so well for the League. But it was only until July when more bad news for the League of Nations arrived, as El Salvador declared their resignation of the League. It is safe to assume they did so due to similar reasons as their Latin American neighbors before them did. There was a focus here that would give us, 15 army experience. Do we get anything extra here? Nope. Army experience gain plus 10%. Fine force. Nope, nothing here really gives us more military experience. Okay, but we can get this one, and that's super quick. 15 is still too little for us, but it would allow us to get the tank. Yugoslavia requests sale of airplanes. Realizing a strategic weakness, the Yugoslavian Air Force has initiated a crash program to modernize and expand its force. Significant money reserves have been set aside to cover the purchase. A commission is traveling around Europe to look for a new source of fighters and medium bombers. Given the urgency of the issue, the Yugoslavians have insisted on immediate delivery or transfer of planes directly from the producer. Divert fighter production. We can't spare anything there with bomber production. I think we can divert the bomber production. We're not really using them, so -2 is good for us. And considering we don't really need that. Yep, that'll give us a couple more factories. It's gonna be finished soon. I am going to deploy you guys.
Attention.
One of you will go here, and one of you will go here. Our army is slowly growing. We are now at deployed manpower 920. Well, no, that's in the field 886k, and 36 are training.
Attention.
This is making the deficit worse, but we are okay. Or it seems like it. We have to start utilizing the things that we have compared to the things that we want. Portugal breaks diplomatic relations with Czechoslovakia. Portugal broke diplomatic relations with Czechoslovakia due to a dispute over guns for rearmament. The tensions arose due to Czechoslovakia's unwillingness to supply weapons to Portugal, which was seeking to rearm itself. This led to the breakdown of diplomatic relations between the two countries. Both sides have accused the other of breaking past agreements. Okay, interesting. I had no idea there was something like that happening. Okay, we're still gaining a bit more food, and we're gaining fuel at a nice rate. I have a thing we have to I mean, we're getting weak with 2.1 stability, so that's not bad. We're still focusing on people's problems, still improving worker situation. And we might even get to 100 here. That's pretty darn good. Okay, you guys are getting the equipment. You guys are not, but you train. And I'm starting to feel a bit more confident about these boards. We need 1, 2, 3 more divisions. And here, for some reason there's... No, it's 3 here. Yeah, so 6 more divisions will be needed to completely cover the border with the motorized functioning as a support. I would like to actually give you guys the things. But how would we do that? There's no space. The Great Hong Kong Typhoon. The 1937 Great Hong Kong Typhoon was an unnamed typhoon in Hong Kong on 2nd of September 1937. It was one of the worst typhoons in Hong Kong's history, killing 11,000 people. In Macau, 21 people died. Victoria Harbour at the time was the something. It was always busy with sampans, junks, ferries, cargo ships, ocean liners, yachts and warships. The typhoon's wind was so strong the observatory instruments capable of registering winds up to 125 miles per hour broke down. Hong Kong Observatory have since recorded the wind with a mean hourly wind average of 59 knots or 68 miles per hour, 109 kilometers per hour. A 10-minute mean wind of 74 knots, 85 miles per hour, 137 kilometers per hour. The maximum gust was at 130 knots, which is 240 kilometers per hour. I think it's a tornado pretty much, 149 miles per hour. The piston of the anemometer hit the stops at 130 knots, and the true maximum gust could not be recorded. The typhoon was so powerful that it caused a 9.1 meter, which is 30 feet, tidal wave that swept through the villages of Taipo and Shatin. The villages suffered massive damage and many fatalities. May God have pity on their souls. Certainly so. Okay, so we now have 6 factories working on the support equipment, giving us an estimated efficiency of 3 units per day. Considering we need a 2,500, right now it's going to be about 1,000 days, so let's call it about 700 days. Okay, that's far from ideal, but I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do it like this. We add 1 more on infantry equipment, 1 more on military uniforms, and 2 more on support equipment, and then we move on to some other issues. Okay, we finished the medium caliber semi-armor piercing shell. Let's choose the next research for ourselves. Do we still get to do more shells? Okay, you are way ahead of time. Get you guys ready. And there's nothing here. Okay, so you can start to go with the ladder shooting. Instead of firing over the target and losing track of the impact behind the enemy ships, shots are deliberately dropped short of the target and the distance between impact and target measured to determine the range. So light attack plus 7.5, heavy attack plus 7.5 for all ships, and destroyers, escorts, and torpedo boats gets 5. Nyon Conference. Okay. Held in Switzerland to address the Italian attacking on international shipping. Has Italy gone too far with their unrestricted submarine warfare, or should we let it slide? Italian dictator Benito Mussolini has denied any allegations to these claims and states that they are pirates, not Italians. 8 countries participated in this conference, those being Egypt, France, UK, Yugoslavia, Bulgaria, Romania, Turkey and Greece. France and the UK will patrol the Western Mediterranean, and the other signatories shall patrol their own waters. Okay, and Blue Dan Conference. The first Pan-Arab summit, known as the Blue Dam Conference in 1937, or Al-Mu'tamar Al-Arabi Al-Kafmi fi Blue Dam in Arabic, took place on September 8th in Blue Dam, Syria. In response to the Pew Commission's recommendation to divide Palestine, which was then under British administration, into Arab and Jewish states, the Arab Higher Committee held the conference. The attending delegates rejected the Pew Commission's recommendation, but were generally in favor of the 1936 Arab uprising in Palestine against the British government and increasing Jewish immigration to Palestine. The Blue Dam Conference was significant historically because it represented the first time that Arabs as a whole expressed worry about the Zionist project. Again, we lose a bit of political power again. But other than that, it's pretty good. So we'll add more factories, the industrial effort this year. Okay, so what do we do now? We can continue with the industrial effort getting 3 more factories, or we could get the 2 hydroelectric power plants, which would help us significantly, or we can get... Yeah, but the armor, the army experience itself is not gonna help unless we get political power. Okay, you know what we could do here? We can do the foreign diplomacy and get the 75 political power. That will allow us to hire the theorist. Then I can continue with the hydroelectric plants, then industrial effort, is infrastructure effort, research grants, and once we get enough experience, we'll divert to the military strategies. That way, we can actually get the theorist, get the army experience, start working on the doctrines, start working on upgrading our tanks. Everything is gonna be cool. Anyway, that's all for this episode. It's all coming together. I'll record the next one just after a small break, but for you, it's gonna be whenever.